Call the meeting. I'm going to begin by asking you to rise for a moment. I'd like to have a moment of silence to recognize Osvaldo Carrillo, who tragically lost his life this past weekend. And so if you just please think of his family and our extended family here at EBID as we adjust to his loss. Thank you. And with that, Mr. Lack, would you please lead us in the invocation?
Sure. Gracious Heavenly Father, we want to come to you today, Lord, and sorrow and appreciation of a man that worked for us here at EBID. We ask you, Lord, to be with all Carrillo and his family and the people around him, Lord, that are suffering much today. We ask you to comfort them. We ask you with these men and these people in this room today, Lord, bless them in their life, Lord, bless them in what they do. Give us direction, give us wisdom to make this organization be exactly where it needs to be. We thank you, Lord, for the moisture we got last year, and it's getting a little dry, Lord. We're going to ask you to bless our watershed with some more moisture as we're going into a pretty hot, dry cycle. We ask all this in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Amen. Thank you very much. Mr. Gillis, would you please lead us in the pledge of allegiance?
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you all. And we'll now have an introduction of guests. We'll begin from Rowland.
Scott Gamble, EBID.
John Longworth, here from the State Engineer's Office. I work for the State Engineer and the Interstate Stream Commission, and we have to have a schedule change, and so we're here today just to be here for introductions and words you may want. I'm happy to have.
Thank you. I'll recognize you just a minute, Mr. Longworth.
Good morning, Stacy Timmons, New Mexico Bureau of Geology and Interstate Engineering.
Was that Timmons or Simmons?
Timmons.
Timmons. Pleasure.
Cheryl Smith from the State Engineers Office. Jessica Novak at the State Engineers Office.
Gary Pico, Sierra Club.
Leo Barrett, EBID.
Steve Hernandez, Carlsbad Irrigation District.
Good morning, Michael Riley, Office State Engineer.
Karen Byron, EBID.
Good morning, Larry Vasquez, Reclamation, El Paso.
Thank you very much. And guests that we have on Zoom. I'd like to note that Ms. Tracy Esslinger, member of the board, is attending remotely today.
Morning.
Naomi, do we have any other guests to introduce? I think we have at least a couple.
James Narvaez, South and Butte Irrigation District.
Max Henkels, New Mexico Department of Ag.
Anthony Cohen, New Mexico Department of Ag.
And then we have Selena, EBID Council.
Good morning.
And
Thank you
that'll-
very much. I appreciate everybody attending today. Mr. Longworth, the floor is yours for up to the next 3 minutes.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, thank you very much. My name is John Longworth. I'm an advisor to the State Engineer and the Director of the Interstate Stream Commission. We are down here on a tour with Vice Chair Stacy Timmons in preparation of a water leaders workshop that will be occurring this coming December. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to say a couple words. And there should be a flyer going around eventually on with the details of when the workshop will be. Really, I just want to say thank you. We've been working really well on the challenges we have down here. We have a lot of challenges that I think we all can appreciate and understand. And I really appreciate having worked, this is my 25th year working on these challenges. The relationship that we've been working together to build, collaborators rather than sort of worrying about other stuff. And with that, I mean, I can stay for questions for a few minutes, but I really just want to say thank you for the time. Thank you guys for your cooperation over the last year, let's say, and we look forward to continuing to work on that relationship. So with that, Mr. Chairman, I could stand for a couple questions if that is your pleasure.
Thank you, Mr. Longworth. Since Mr. Longworth is not on the agenda, it would be inappropriate of us to ask him questions, but I appreciate you coming down want to express our gratitude in coming to work issues in our area. It was a decade ago that I remember first meeting you on my farm, discussing these same sorts of things. So thank you for continuing to work with us to be partners in solutions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
That brings us to the approval of the minutes from July 13th. Are there any comment corrections? Hearing none, the chair will entertain a motion to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2023.
So moved.
Second. I have a motion for Mr. Frank Paul Solopek and seconded by Mr. Dwayne Gillis to approve the minutes of July 13th, 2023. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? In the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it and the motion carries. That brings us to the calendar of events. Mr. Ethlinger.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the sake of announcing, we'll begin a trial called the Tula trial. It's a video trial, and it will be starting next week on the 7th. And with that said, there will be some staff and legal counsel in the trial, so we still need one more special board meeting at some time in the month of August. I'm thinking around the 16th, where we can do some things that we need to do before the end of the year, and one of them is a set of budget amendment to resolution, and then also our assistant manager will be presenting to you a new budget model, something that I think you're going to be excited to see as far as our new business plan and financial plan that we want to set forth. And that will all be done at this special board meeting. And with that said, I'll leave that to you, Mr. Chair, when you want to recommend that next special board meeting. As far as September, there's not a whole lot going on. We've got a regular scheduled board meeting on the 13th, back to normal. So that's my report.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ethlinger. So with regards to the special board meeting, I'd like to open it up to the board of directors. Are there any significant scheduling conflicts that anyone has the last 3 weeks of August that we should try to work around? I'll note that the Arizona Congress Conference is the 24th and 25th. I generally attend that. It's a Thursday and a Friday.
I'll be leaving out of town on the 3rd.
And gone through.
I'll be back 28.
Okay.
16th works.
All right, so I have a suggestion for the 16th. Anyone have conflicts for the 16th? Tracy, how's that look for you?
That looks good.
Thank you very much. Although, then I will accept a motion to call a special, well, no, I don't need that. I will be calling a special board meeting for August 16th to discuss budget resolution and other pertinent matters as are appropriately agended and noticed.
Mr. President, do you want 9 a.m.?
Yes.
I am.
All right, any other comments from the board regarding this calendar event? Very good, that brings us to water resources. Dr. King. Always good to see you in person, Dr. King.
It was good to be here in person. I've noticed that even so chili in Las Cruces is way better than good chili in Albuquerque.
They said the same thing in Iowa. It somehow was better in New Mexico than Iowa.
Well, I think the Steve Hernandez principle is that the further you get from Hatch, New Mexico, the worse the chili gets. Go to Alaska and you'll find that's true. Okay. Few things to talk about here. First of all, our current status as of midnight on July 31st. We had 455,000 acre feet in Elephant Butte. And it is dropping at a little over 4,000 acre feet per day right now. Storage in Caballo is about 50,000. So we got total project storage there about 505,000. This is a very rough estimate of the Rio Grande compact credit. I think it's actually a little less than that now due to evaporation since I updated this number. I believe there is no San Juan Chama water in storage, so we've got usable project storage of about 505,000. Not releasable, this includes a pool of 10,000 acre feet for Elephant Butte and 12,000 acre feet for Caballo. I think Caballo, my understanding is they'll actually run that down below 12,000 acre feet this year. Is that right, Larry?
Yes, sir.
We're going to be doing some work on the outlet, so that what they'll do is they'll shut down Elephant Butte a little bit early and just trail up, take care of the end of the season with that Caballo storage.
And I want to be sure that I understood that correctly. We're going to be working on the outlet work at Caballo Dam. So we're planning to run storage somewhere under 12,000 acre feet to accomplish that.
That's
That
right.
work.
Yes, sir. It's only gonna be taking a few days to do that, to take care of the debris that gets in that outlet. And it happens every so many years, so they had scheduled it for this year.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. King.
The release from Caballo so far is 377,000. That means a seasonal supply of about 860. And I think this year's water is something over 600,000 acre feet. What has certainly changed from 2 months ago, and you could sort of start to see it last month, is the net inflow into Elephant Butte was dropping precipitously, and it's actually gone negative now. And again, the net inflow is the daily release plus the daily change in storage, which is actually how the Rio Grande Compact calculates it. And I'll talk a little bit more about that in just a minute here. In fact, right now, this is what it's looked like this calendar year. Last month, we were somewhere in this vicinity, and you see it has gone negative. What it means to go negative is that there is a little bit of water drooling in from probably from the low flow conveyance channel in that whole system. The river at San Marcial is dry at this point. And so what's happening is as the reservoir drops, you have bank storage. You know, when you fill the reservoir up, it pushes water into the surrounding geology. When you drop it, you get that return flow. And that return flow is slightly less now than the reservoir evaporation. So that's why net inflow goes negative. It doesn't mean it's flowing backwards at San Marcial. One thing I also took a look at is how this year compares to, well, taking a look at the previous 5 years. And I know this is kind of a messy slide, but I am an engineer after all. This is 2019 through up to the present. And it's the net inflow into Elephant Butte in each of these years. On the legend there, you see the year for each line. And the number in parentheses is the allocation we had that year. And the reason I bring this up is because I'm starting to think about next year at this point. And just running through time, you see in 2019, we had, of course, a banner year that was actually even bigger than this year. And then it plummeted. It's plummeting earlier and steeper this year, but it did plummet. And then here in November and December, you'll see a bunch of water coming down. That's about 240,000 acre feet just in November and December of 2019. And that's a couple of things. It's first of all, the releasing of prime and paramount water that they release and use water downstream, but also they have some retained flood water. And we do have retained flood water upstream now. I don't know exactly how much, but the storage in Abiquiu last I checked, which was early this morning, is about 212,000 acre feet. And storage, and it's going down slowly. They're bringing that down. And the storage in Cochiti is about 42,000. So there is some water that will be coming down in November and December. Keep in mind, however, that we stop allocating water October 31st. And so between now and October 31st, unless we get some monsoons, we really aren't getting any new inflow. So we would not make it to 790,000 of this year's water unless we get some help from the monsoon before October 31st. Okay. Notice that big banner year was followed by this just god awful 2020 down here. That there was no spring runoff. It just didn't happen. We were actually running probably negative during spring runoff season, which is crazy. But notice we had a 14-inch allocation or 14-inch allotment. And the reason, of course, is that the 2019 runoff, we came out of 2018 with very little storage. We basically had leftover water from 2019 that provided for that 14-inch allotment in 2020. We didn't get that from runoff. 2021, therefore, we basically used all that water in 2020. So 2021 was not a terribly good year. As you see, it was a little better than this is the spring runoff that year, still pretty pathetic. And because we started with so little storage, we only had a 4-inch allotment. In 2022, we had a little bit of spring runoff, a little bit of early monsoon. And then you remember last year, we had this late monsoon too. That was a very productive monsoon season. Not seeing that just yet this year. And then, of course, so far in 2023, big runoff, fast and hard crash. And I expect we'll stay down here with an occasional monsoonal blip until November. Also looking at this, looking forward to next year, you see that we managed to make 14 inches in 2020 based on the 2019 runoff. So at this point, I would say cautiously that if I were to guess where we will wind up with our allocation, with our allotment next year, it would be something on the order of a foot, something on the order of 12 inches. And you say, well, we got 14 inches in 2020. That's on the order of a foot. So that's kind of the ballpark we're in. And the things to watch out for is, or to consider, is that El Paso #1 will probably come on quite early because they're going to go into the season with a full carryover account. We may get a little bit of spill into our account, but we will have carryover water as well. So expect the ability to start early, and I suspect El Paso #1 will choose to do so. If they have the water to do so, they like to run about 300,000 acre feet. Their carryover cap is 234,000 acre feet. So they're going to have pretty close to what for them is a full season. We won't have, if we had 495,000, we would try to use it all. So that's where my thinking is on this. Expect something next year, think something on the order of a foot, and expect at least El Paso #1 to come on early. I suspect we'll have to see how the end of the year here shapes up. In 2020, Mexico's allocation was reduced due to extraordinary drought. I would, again, if we get another snowpack like we did this last year, we'll probably not be in extraordinary drought. If we get another 2020 snowpack, we will be.
Mr. Chair, please, how early do you think early is? March?
Yeah.
End of March?
I've not talked to EP1 about it, but I'm thinking mid to late March.
Okay, does that help us plan for our construction season?
Yeah.
When we get out of the.
Sure.
Thank you.
And we have to be ready to get out of the river, but also, if we choose to come on really well. get out of the entire system.
And so, it's a little early to know what's gonna be in the reservoir at the end of the season, but things for us to be thinking about, assuming potential for an early release of EP1, is that we should be looking at February snowpack and making decisions about, do we have enough water to make it to runoff if there's a large snowpack?
Right.
Thank you.
And you see our snowpack both in 2019 and 2023 really did kick on. It got serious in, mid-March, so that's about the time we would be expecting it if there is significant snowpack. In those really low snowpack years, meaning 2020 through 2022, you notice that it is generally delayed. So.
Questions for Dr. King specifically regarding history and what you want to be thinking about from here to there. Tracy, I can't see you, but you have any questions?
No, no questions.
Thank you.
Okay, well, I hope that's helpful. This is a snapshot of the river.
If you'll let me have Dr. King finish his report, if you'll hold that question, I'll ask for a public comment at the end of the report.
These are the instantaneous flows coming down the river now. That San Marcial, you saw that the net inflow is negative, so I don't put too much confidence in that stream flow gauge. The river at San Marcial is completely dry, so any flow that I'm reporting there is coming down the low flow conveyance channel and through the swamp and by down to the reservoir. You'll notice that the upper part of the river is 90%, and then as it goes through the middle Rio Grande, it plummets. That is due to MRGCD with 821 CFS diverted at their headings. They also basically get water from some riverside drains that is sort of a non-point diversion. You can think of it that way. So they're running water, and then Albuquerque Bernalillo County Water Utility Authority is running 115 CFS into their surface water treatment plant up there by Alameda, and returning 52 CFS from their wastewater treatment plant. So that's what the middle Rio Grande is looking like, and you see it really is taking a lot of the river. One thing that I have not been able to tease out yet is where New Mexico is on their compact deliveries. Again, a lot of it depends on that November and December release of water. I'm sure that they're showing a fairly stiff deficit for this year, but it really doesn't do too much good to try to guess where they are. I have been, not this month just concluded, but in previous months, I have been attending the ERGWAM meetings, which is the Upper Rio Grande Water Operations Model group with the Corps of Engineers and Reclamation and the Interstate Stream Commission and so on. And that's been insightful into what they're planning. I missed it this last month due to other responsibilities. Next, our precipitation this is again for the 2023 water year, not the calendar year. So the water year begins October 1st, 2022. This is down a few percent from last month. And that is because the average for this time of year continues upward throughout the year. Obviously, you can't lose precipitation once it's fallen, and we haven't gotten much. So it's been very dry up there, and we are sliding down towards average in spite of the big snowpack that we had there. Looking at the outlook for the rest of our monsoon season, I guess is the way I would look at it. is you see that the forecast for precipitation throughout the Rio Grande watershed is below average. And the temperature is above average, no surprise there. I was kind of surprised to see that there are equal chances and even below average temperatures up there in the upper Midwest, but climate is a complicated thing. This is getting to October here. We're expecting less than average precipitation. So I don't, this is one of the reasons why I'm a little pessimistic that we're going to get a lot of monsoonal help. This basically takes us through our monsoon, and we were getting pretty good monsoonal precipitation last year all the way into October, and even a little bit, I think, into November. But again, don't expect a whole lot of help from the monsoon. Let's hope for the snowpack, because the two are not particularly correlated, the monsoon and the snowpack. This is the drought monitor as of July 25th. You remember that we were essentially out of drought conditions, but you see abnormally dry starting to creep in. Expect to see this map get heading towards the warmer colors in the next few months as the drought deepens. That's certainly the seasonal outlook. They're expecting drought to develop throughout our region here. And notice that includes the headwaters of the Colorado. So they've had a lot of trouble, a lot of tension over there in the Colorado. They got a little break with this big runoff year, but they're going to have to, the party's over. This El Nino is really starting to heat up. Get it? This El Nino is dead and gone as of March 2023, and we've been heating up, particularly out here off the coast of Ecuador and Peru, getting well above average. And cross your fingers, we've got 90% chance of El Nino persisting through the northern hemisphere winter. In fact, it's probably going to deepen during this period. So let's hope that helps out with our snowpack. That would be a big help. So in conclusion, we're losing water in Elephant Butte now, net losing water. We're intensifying in drought. There will be a big pulse of water coming down at the end of the year, and I will try to get an update for you on what that's looking like. Hopefully, even if you convene a special board meeting on the 16th, I believe I've got an ERG1 meeting before then, so I'll try to provide some insight there. And then we'll have an allotment next month or next year, as I said, on the order of a foot for planning purposes. Any questions?
I have how long will the river be running? Till what day? This year?
Down here, I believe El Paso is running into mid to late September. It's mid to late September. And so. Okay.
Any more questions from the board? I have one question from the public. Yes, sir.
Actually, two questions.
Sure.
Dr. King, when you turn the faucets off, you have some idea of how much water is going to be left in the reservoir, and to what extent is evaporation affect that? Do you have a percentage loss on evaporation of water that's standing there?
Well, right now, you saw the net inflow in the reservoir is negative, and that's due to evaporation. I don't recall, due to the way they're operating Elephant Butte and Caballo to run Caballo down for maintenance. I don't recall how much we're going to leave in the reservoir, but it will be, let's see. I'm thinking we may dip into Article 7, which would be combined storage of less than 400,000 acre feet. But certainly evaporation is a consideration. It's much less of a consideration these days than it was back in the 80s and 90s because evaporation is proportional with surface area, and if you don't have any water in there, you don't have any surface area. So
Is that a sufficient quantity of water to support recreation activities?
yes, I don't think I think it'll be a very good year for recreation there.
Just one other question, sir. I was up there last week and you passed water through a hydro generation facility. Is that revenue to the district? That hydro revenue?
No. The hydroelectric facility it was not part of the original construction. It was an add-on. The reservoir was completed in 1916. And the power plant was added in about 1938. And so reclamation actually runs that and operates it sort of as a separate piece of infrastructure, and they handle all that. So Larry gets that money.
And all the headache.
That's right. And one thing you don't want to do is own a dam.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Kane.
And I'll turn it over to James.
Mr. Narvaez.
Mute, can you hear me?
We can hear you. Are you able to take screen sharing over?
Yeah, sure will. I apologize for not being there in person. I have battling a flu, stomach bug, something or another. My grandkids gave me, so apologize for that. Today's board report won't be as my normal board report because we're just 2 days out of the last month, so we're still processing quite a bit of data. Still haven't received data from El Paso, so I'm doing quite a few estimates as far as what's going on. But they're going to be pretty close. It's not going to be a whole lot of change to what I'm going to show you here. First of all, can you see the screen okay?
Yes.
Okay. So I'll just give you a preliminary number, and I just had to, like I said, I had to estimate some numbers because we're just outside of the end of the month. Normally we got to process charts and we got to do strip charts and those kind of things and get the data quality assured and all that stuff. So, but anyway, here, this is what we have so far for July. What we did for the month of July for the array was 12,313 acre feet. The Leesburg Canal, 18,706 acre feet. California Extension, 218 acre feet. The east side minus Texas delivery, which was 335. Net diversion was 12,111. The west side, 32,000 minus the Texas delivery, which is about 9,500 acre feet. We delivered or diverted 23,212 for a total of 66,569. We did have some bypass that we used up at the array. We used that quite a bit this year to keep the canal as full as possible. So we did get credit back for the bypass that we did put through Wasteways 5 and Wasteway 16, about almost 2,000 acre feet up there. So the net allotment charge for the month of July was 64,000, which was on target where we talked about last board meeting that we're probably going to hit the same amount that we did in June, which we did. So that's kind of where we're at. So year to date, about 160,000 and acre feet delivered. We did shut down the array July 29th. We went to 0 and we kind of finished out there for a few days and it finally petered out that Monday. We're still going pretty decent on the southern area. We have a lot more acres that are on order in the southern area. We kind of slowed down a little bit up here in the Leesburg. We're getting to a point where we're starting to run out of the big farmers. They have quite a bit of the allocation that keeps us moving. They're kind of holding back a little bit and kind of saving it to get the last waters in there. So we're not seeing as high demand going into August. So we're seeing that is dropping as well. On the east side and west side, of course, we're still holding about the same. We still have quite a few acres in there that have allotments. A lot of the cotton and those kind of crops are down there. So you're going to see that just because of those types of crops that are down there. We did have a successful flat rate weekend in the month of July. Not too many issues. Just our normal frequent areas that have trouble. But other than that, we kind of went through it. And anybody that ran into issues where we had to stop them, we actually coordinated to get them irrigated again. So for the most part, anybody who had an issue with not picking up the weekend, whether it's notification or flooding or dirty ditches or whatever, we ended up with the ability to work them out and get them into the schedule. So we hope we met everybody there. So that's a pretty good flat rate weekend considering that. I don't have the complete diversion delivery yet, but I'll give you my rough estimate. So again, we delivered about 60.
James, we just lost your audio. James, if you can hear me, wiggle your mouse. Okay, you can hear me, I can't hear you. It looks like he's muted. Still can't hear you.
Have them come on video and do sign to finish it out.
Well, what I can see, James, is that we diverted approximately 65,000 acre feet again in July that we did in June. I think that's what you're trying to tell us in this graph, and that our diversion efficiency ran 49%. Thank you, James. So do you show us a spreadsheet showing us the water running out and our expected date that we'll expect diversions to end? Do you have that updated? Thank you. He says he does not have it updated, but that we're on track for what we discussed last month. Thank you very much, James. Are there any questions for Mr. Narvaez? Thank you, Mr. Narvaez. That brings us to general administrative.
Greg, I'd like to make a
Make
suggestion here, Chairman. I would like for each one of these districts to move myself to kind of give, it's not in the State of the Union,
Sure.
EBID, but I'd kind of like to do that so we can kind of get the graph because we have finished our water up there. And as for us at the lower end of the valley there in the Rincon, that's my district. I've had a few phone calls. Just like the heat, it's kind of wore off on some of the people. We've had some tempers here and there, but overall the year was good. And I've talked to several farmers. I've fielded several phone calls. But as a year with this 14 inches of water that we were blessed with, I'm going to say in our area, it was a great success with very little negative comments about things. But again, with the heat and with these plants demanding that water at a very strict, cycle, there was a few things that got upside down. Of course, our ditch riders up there, some of them are not going to be there next year as an indication of things that we need to be looking at to fix. But that's my report on the South District. Wayne, how about on yours now? That you guys go around the table. I'd like to hear from you if that's okay.
I think that's appropriate, Mr. Lack, and I'll ask you to wait for a moment.
Mr. Gillard, everyone I've talked to and heard from him was pretty successful. I mean, there was complaints here and there through the season, which they're all good, but overall, Happy and thankful for what you see.
Thank you, Mr. Gillis. From precinct 4, I've received 0 phone calls with concerns about delivery this year. And I think this is the first year that I can remember that I've not received any phone calls with concerns about delivery. From the experience on our farm, delivery has been very good. As usual, we've been able to order or acquire additional water and take delivery of that. So that's a sign that supply is at least meeting demand. Visually, both the Mesilla and the Louisiana, which go around our place, have been charged more than I remember seeing them in probably 20 years. That's a sign that the system is running well and that our ditch riders are able to manage a more charged system. I believe that's reflected in the fact that we're able to divert 65,000 acre feet a month. Back-to-back months like that, I do believe that is a high watermark for a couple of decades. That's just phenomenal in terms of our teams being able to get water into the system. The only questions I fielded is, when's it going to stop? So they know when to get their last orders in and make sure they use up all their water. That's the only few questions I feel.
Reminder, water's been delivered on time and having her being complaints of the water, so. So far, so good.
I as well really haven't had any complaints. I've talked to people and I feel everything's been good. Had a few issues, but mainly it was because I believe the grower waited a little too long, and then the concern was, can I get it out before it's cut off? But really on deliveries, consistency and charges it overall as well, as far as I can tell.
Pretty much the same, no complaints, a lot of water in the fields, people are using it. Haven't had any issues so far.
I think my boys haven't complained to me, so I guess everything's doing okay. That looks good.
Tracy.
I have not heard of any major issues. I will say that EBID maintenance has been wonderful at getting out to fix breaks in canals. We had a fairly major one about a month ago, so I've been very impressed with the team that got out to do those repairs. Likewise, I see the farmers chipping in when there's breaks on the drainage ditches. If they have a backhoe, they're in there, they're helping out. So overall, great. And as a new board member, I'm trying to develop relationships and good communication channels. So far, so good.
Thank you, Ms. Esslinger. That was an excellent idea, Mr. Lack. Thank you. With that, Barbara, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me get the files.
After you bring that up, I'll ask you to share the screen.
Okay. And here's screen. Where's it at?
I'm doing bottom, so that you will know.
Do it here?
Yeah.
Okay. There it is. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, as part of the balance sheet part on the agenda, I'm going to give you the cash balances detail that I usually provide, and that is as of this morning. And since today was payday, it was affected by this morning's cash flow. We're still doing well. The amounts reflect that we did have extra payrolls in June due to the overtime for the discharge, but we're still doing fine. We did do a transfer on our cash balance, so our cash balance is still fine. That gives us about $278,000 more than we had this time last year, and we've been doing well at not needing to transfer out or transfer in, excuse me, as much money from our investment account as we had this time last year. I stand for questions on this. Okay, let's see if I can do it right this time. For the balance sheet,
You need to bring the screen, yeah.
yeah. Let's see.
Nope, the left.
There we go, thank you.
You're welcome.
And I will try to make this bigger. Control plus, thank you. That didn't make it much bigger. I don't see the plus minus. We got new software and it looks a little different and I'm still figuring it all out. So there aren't many changes on the balance sheet for this is the operations and management account. Everything is still pretty much as it was. And the LID, the only things that really happened this month is we received a few payments for assessments and a little bit of interest. So are there any questions on the balance sheet for me?
How's our accounts receivable trend year over year?
It's doing pretty well. We are currently working on updating, we just finished updating our liens on those properties, and now we're getting ready to send out the 3-year notices for those that are over them. But because we had water this year, we did better at collecting some of the old properties than we had before.
Thank you.
And let's go through the full fund process again. And like I said, on the local improvement district, there wasn't much activity, so I'm going to go straight to the operations and management profit and loss statement.
Would you turn the screen again?
Oh, sure, sorry.
And if you, since we're changing, if you just select the one at the top left there, instead of yours, just select screen and it'll just share whatever we have. Fine.
New share. Okay, so for this one, not much change here. As I have said before, this is a year-to-date report, so that the budget on some of these items, it changes every month to reflect what we were expecting to happen in that month. So some of these percentage of budget numbers would change accordingly. But still, we're still doing pretty well for what we expected. Payroll expenses are at a higher than we were last month percentage of budget because we did have the higher payrolls due to the season. The operations and maintenance, one item to note is that the fuel expenses are not in here right now. We're working on that currently. But if you add about 25,000 to fleet service expense, that will give you about this month's adjustment for the fuel.
So I noticed that that's obviously substantially under budget. Interesting, you may know this, is that because of heavy expenses in the after season maintenance period? I mean, we're 1.4 mega short under budget currently, so are we expecting that there will be a large ramp up in maintenance expenses after shutdown?
Yes, we are. We do spend a lot of money on things that we need for the grant projects and items we need for other projects that we've been putting on hold. And also something reflected here is that if we did buy heavy equipment and then I capitalized it, it might be in here, but I don't think that that's reflected, but just in case. But yes, this one for sure is that we haven't worked on some of that equipment and some of those projects yet.
Thank you.
Okay, and then for operating indirect expenses, again, pretty much like it was previously. The credit card payments continue to be very high for some of these license fees, and those are reflected both here and in the miscellaneous income because we do charge a fee for credit card payments. Some of these items are just perhaps due to the timing of the budget, but all in all, we're looking like we're in pretty good shape with all of these. We are expecting a budget adjustment at the special meeting, and you'll see how those will affect these. Again, the interest, we're still doing really well on our interest income, especially for the investments at the state treasurer's office. Even though we're pulling money out, our interest is remaining about constant, which means we're still having rising interest rates. And that's all I had for this particular.
Thank you, Ms. Byram. Tracy, did you have any questions?
No, no questions. Thank you.
Any other questions from the board? Thank you. Brings us to a contract renewal.
Yes. So we have two items on this part of the agenda. The first one is the contract renewal for Contech, which is for our pipe that we use for our, well, we use it not only for piping the long grant projects, but also for culvert repairs and things like that. Their prices did not change for the pipe with this renewal, but their delivery prices did increase. Otherwise, everything is as it was.
Thank you. So their delivery is up to 480 a mile. What was it previously? I know they should be going up there.
Yes, I'm afraid I do not recall what it was. I can get that for you.
It's a number that. But seems reasonable given current stuff. Any questions regarding the contract for pipe?
Mr. President, I think Julia stated.
Well, I just think.
I'm sorry.
I think the shipping served enough of roughly 30 cents a mile.
Okay, thank you, Leo. Questions regarding the pipe contract? Hearing none, what is the will of the board?
I move we accept the engineering solution contract.
I have a motion from Mr. Lack, I believe the second was from Mr. Saltek, to approve the contract renewal of Contact Engineering Solutions. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is present, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Brings us to the ratification of the rate lock agreement for, I believe, HR software. Mr. Esslinger, you have the floor.
Here, the staff have been working, Joe and Karen and Elise on the new HR software program. Our other HR program, we did not choose to renew, which was called NeoGov. So now we've come up with a new HR program, which we think is can meet all of our expectations of how we handle our HR department in the future, and certainly how we can handle our timesheets and everything else. It's got performance reviews. It's got all kinds of things that we can definitely take advantage of. I handed to my team that they looked and went through 3 vendors' presentations and drew from their choice pay for it. And the problem with that was that they gave us a price quote early on, 2 months ago or so, and through the time it took to go through the other vendors that we looked at, their quote ended. And so we were trying to save some money, and certainly we had Joe talk to them and ask that they reconsider, the discussion that they had with them based upon the original quote. And so in doing so, Joe was able to save about $12,000 to bring them back down to what they had quoted originally. And they wanted approval to lock in that rate before it so that we could hold on to that vendor. And so that's what this is ratification of the approval of the rate of the software. Correct. And that's what I bring in before you. Certainly, the rate lock agreement is what I signed, just to secure the rate that we agreed upon. The new vendor is considered to be the one that fits our needs the best, and that's the name of the vendor is paid for. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, the price lock contract, but I think, benefit we go over and come to the special board meeting, here later in the month. Give you guys a detailed breakout of what that's gonna do for the firm. So I think we'll just go there, but in reality, it was a price lock agreement. I mean, $12,000. It's about 33% discount, so we wanted to engage in that price lock before the board meeting. There was no way that we can push it to the second board meeting. Get that ratified.
Thank you, Ms. Bradshaw. Ms. Byron, do you have any comments?
I totally support what they've said and recommend that we approve.
Thank you. And to restate what I believe I've heard is to lock in the price ahead of us approving the contract for this HR software. Mr. Esslinger and his team went and entered into a rate lock agreement to avoid a price increase in the software. We were being asked to ratify that agreement as a board. Questions from the board?
Also, I will say that the price lock is a 4-year price lock. That wasn't mentioned, but it also locks in the price for the next 4 years.
Given that, regarding the ratification of the rate lock agreement, what is the will of the board?
You're looking for new HR stuff, so I just better get it. I think. What are you gonna do?
So while we're not specifically voting on the HR software contract, we are ratifying an agreement that was entered into in between the board meetings. There's a motion on the floor by Mr. Saltek to ratify the agreement entered into by Mr. Esslinger.
Second.
And a second by Mr. Nunez. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Any opposed? Being the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. Brings us to the manager's update. Mr. Esslinger.
Chair, on page 31 of your book, there's a announcement of the Coalition of Rio Grande Water Users inaugural meeting. This is the first of its kind for the Rio Grande users in New Mexico. The genius behind this was developed early on in when we had staff and members of the board in DC, Washington, DC, and the thought was to bring awareness to the Rio Grande as much as there was awareness on the Colorado River. With the 7 states that represent the Colorado River, it was felt like, it was time to at least bring to the public awareness of what was happening on the Rio Grande. and through Colorado, New Mexico and Texas. And so the idea was created then, and it just has developed to a point now where on October 3rd to the 5th in Santa Fe, New Mexico, there will be a coalition of Rio Grande water users meeting in a conference there. And what I'm trying to do now is just bring to your attention that certainly we would like board representation there, and as well as the staff member presentations. You'll see a draft agenda on page 31, where certainly we believe that there'll be some high ranking officials from Washington and certainly other key personnel giving presentations on that Wednesday. And certainly there's some breakout sessions on Thursday as well that would be interesting for folks to understand what's going on, not only in the United States, but across the world, what's happening in Australia as well as Israel. So I encourage you all to think about this and really try to mark off on your calendars this opportunity to go up there and listen and be the first participant from that share with what we've developed here as a highlight of what's happening on the Rio Grande. And that's my report to you all, and hopefully that you'll get with Naomi and start letting her know if you want to go, and then we can at least book hotel rooms. And then you can always cancel them, but then later, as we get closer to the date, we'll start registering those people for the conference as well. So that's my reporting the question.
Questions about the conference? So to get intention stated, I will mention that it is my intention to attend the 3rd and the 4th. I will have to depart early in the morning on the 5th. So I would just need a room for the evening of the 3rd and the 4th. I don't think there is a limit to the number of board members that we can take to this meeting. Given that we potentially have the Commissioner of Reclamation, IBWC Commissioner, and the entire Rio Grande Compact Commission, it would be beneficial to show that the board members of our district are interested and engaged in the matters being discussed. If you can get with Naomi, let her know your availability so that she can move forward with ensuring that we have sufficient rooms for those that want to attend, as well as managing travel. Mr. Lack.
Chairman Bellier, it's real important that those people that see us as farmers, see us as people. You know, we went up there, I actually hitched a ride with your wife, and we went up there to spend a day and a half with them folks, and I've got memories of that. And I have people who have just not a name but a face. You get to learn who they are and what they stand for, and you'll be surprised how important that is when you go to your next layer of whatever negotiating you're trying to do, to have that kind of familiarity with each other. It's unmeasurable, Greg, to know them and they know you. So it's important that we go. I'd encourage anybody that can get up there and visit with those folks.
Thank you, Mr. Black. Any other questions or comments? Thank you. That brings us to the ditch break report.
Well, it's my pleasure to announce to the board that there were no ditch breaks in July.
Hey,
Now, this is incredible announcement because at the heat of the summer, we were challenged with water orders that exceeded what we our expectation, and we watered up and loaded up our canals to the max. And I owe it to the operations department and maintenance that department as well, who ensured that we kept that water moving. And we had people out in force making sure that we did not incur a ditch break. And that's amazing for a water season that we started from 4 inch last year and then jumped to 14 inch to have the operations, staff prepared for that was incredible. Certainly, we were utilizing, maintenance, employees to run water and ditch riders to run backhoe. It was incredible time that we saw in July, and certainly even got through a flat rate weekend without any major problems. So I'm happy to report the notice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Etlinger. That brings us to the engineering and maintenance update. I have Mrs. Donahue recognized on the agenda, but that said, it's uncommon for us to be able to have Mr. Barrett here. Mr. Barrett, is there any maintenance or project updates that you would like to give today?
No, sir, we're hanging in there with our numbers, which we will be discussing in the meeting as far as our personnel and what we're looking at for this upcoming year. But right now, we're still just trying to stay on top of weed control and keep our water in this system and the lower system for the next few weeks. I'm here to listen in and just say hi and let y'all know I'm still here.
I appreciate it, Mr. Barrett. I'm glad that, you know, things are calm enough today that you could sit down for a few minutes. So I'm glad to see you. Ms. Donahue.
It's about the same for engineering. We're still working, but no major, anything going on right now. So that's good.
Thank you. That brings us to special use permits.
So, good morning.
Good morning.
All right, let me get set up here. Yes, ma'am. Okay. So just a little summary here of July ready to use licenses. There's a total of 9. 6 are Quest renewed buried aerial telephone cable lines. We have 1 El Paso Electric new aerial electrical line, 2 Comcast new aerial fiber optic lines, and that's gonna wrap it up. So it's pretty short compared to what we talked about before in the prior months. So starting off with a Quest here, and again, we have 6 Quest renewals. This is license number 068. You want the job number? Is that no? That's good, okay. So we have license number 068, which is a renewal. It's an aerial telephone. Or I'm sorry, aerial. Yeah, telephone line there. Another Quest, which is, oh, I'm sorry, this is license number 094, Quest. Again, this is a renewal. The next one here is license number 095, Quest. License number 215, this is Quest again. License number 216, Quest. License number 218, and this will be Quest. Okay, and then we have a license number 219. This is El Paso Electric. They have a new aerial electrical line crossing the Taylor lateral. This is license number 220, Comcast cable. They're constructing, so this is a new fiber optic line crossing the Leesburg drain. This is another Comcast license number 221. The line, fiber optic line, we crossing the Leesburg main canal. And that's going to wrap it up. That's a total of 9 that we have there. There are no conflicts with any of these that we recognized and looked over with the engineering department looking over. Staff recommends board approval.
Thank you.
Greg, I got a question.
Mr. Lack.
On that first one there, is that $50?
Yes.
That's where everything else is 5,000, that was 50.
Yeah, no, that's correct. It's part of it's a service drop.
Okay.
So that's part of the blanket agreement.
Thank you.
Thank you. And the big explanation there is it's part of the blanket agreement.
I seen the blanket agreement deal over there and I thought maybe that was true, but when it's that big a swing, I'm gonna ask.
Yeah, no, that's true. No problem. Any questions?
I had a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So can you explain more about the service drop per blanket agreement? What does that mean exactly?
Like, Anna, you have some more detail on that?
Yes, Tracy, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, the blanket agreement came, about a few years ago. There was a settlement between Quest and, EBID. It was court order. And a drop, a service drop is, anything that it services one location. And that's what they decided. It would be $50 if it's just, a drop from a main line to one service, to one farm, to one house, and that's what it is.
And to add to that, my understanding is the reason for the service drop fee being so low is that it was not prohibitively expensive for individuals to get telecommunication access to their house. So at the time of the blanket agreement, cell phone service was not quite as ubiquitous as it is now. And so 911 service was considered an essential utility, and we could not burden individual residents with the land use fee. That was my understanding of the reason for the low $50 fee.
Okay, thank you for answering that question.
Staff recommends board approval.
Other questions? My first question to the board then, are there any individual permits which any board member would like to have voted on separately? Hearing none, what is the will of the board for the 9 permits presented today? I have a motion for Mr. Solopek to approve the 9 presented permits. Mr. Frank Paul.
I'll second.
A second for Mr. Lack. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? It is present, the ayes have it, the motion carries. I want to give just one comment on the license list. I really appreciate the new format.
Okay, good.
The color coding, especially when they're long, helps me identify, where they're grouping and falling in.
Right.
If I need to pull one out individually, probably it's going to be color coded in a way that helps me. And the total at the bottom gives me much better situational awareness of the land use fees that we're assessing on a monthly basis. So thank you very much for this format. I'm grateful for it.
You're welcome.
All right, next on the agenda is the suspension and transfer hearing. I may be catching AJ off guard for early.
And it's presented.
Yeah.
Oh, and it is, okay.
AJ's not in today. Good morning, Mr. President, members of the board. Let me get the water transfer for today.
While you're bringing that up,
Yeah, you got it.
I call to order the board to sit as a board to hear a suspension and transfer application. The board is convened to act upon applications by landowners in the district to transfer water rights pertinent to lands within the district which are not suitable for irrigation or capable of being properly irrigated to other lands within the district. These applications are filed under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statutes. The board will decide if, within their judgment, the other lands within the district may be profitably and advantageously irrigated. The applicants are identified as listed on Exhibit A. The applicants are required to publish notice in any newspaper published within Doñana County of EBID taking action to consider a resolution allowing the transfer. The publication should have listed the time and place of this meeting, listed the action to be taken by this board, listed a description of the move to and move from lands, and listed the reason for the requested transfer. Does staff have a copy of the notice of publication?
Yes, Mr. President.
Were all of the required points in the publication?
Yes, Mr. President.
Was the last publication date made prior to this hearing?
Yes, Mr. President.
We will now proceed with presentation by staff. After that, the board members can ask questions of staff. Mrs. Donahue.
Good morning, everybody. Today we have just one water transfer. It's the water transfer 2023-WT-010, Dry Creek Ranch LLC to Salopec 6U Farms, Inc. Dry Creek Ranch had water rights of 27.98. The water right acreages would be transferred to Salopec 6U Farms. The gross on Dry Creek Ranch is 44.45 with the 27.98 water right acres. If approved, that will leave 0 water rights on that property. And Salopec 6U Farms has a gross of 188.97 and 117.48 acres of water rights. If approved, 27.98 acres of water rights would be moved to the property for a new total of 145.46 water right acres. Any questions about the water transfer?
Staff's recommendation is
Approval.
thank you. Are there any questions from the board or staff? Hearing none, at this point in time, the board will take evidence and testimony from the applicants or their representatives or any persons who are here to protest the applications. We will proceed with any presentation by the applicants. After that, the board members and the EBID staff can ask questions of the applicants. Would the applicants or their representatives introduce themselves? Hearing none. Are there any protestants who wish to speak? If so, please identify yourselves for the record. And I don't see anyone other than NMDA in the audience. I will note, I'm assuming NMDA is not protesting this application. If so, please speak up.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Are there any other comments? Hearing none, the chair will now entertain a motion to have a resolution to approve or disapprove the applications. And I will note that we are expecting a single abstention from Mr. James Salpeg.
Correct.
So moved.
I have a motion from Mr. Nunez to approve the resolution from the applicants.
Second.
A second from Mr. Calhoun. Any discussion? Hearing none, discussion is closed. All those in favor of approving the resolution, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstentions? One abstention noted by Mr. James Salpeg. I will ask, in the opinion of the chair, the ayes have it, the motion carries. I will ask that the resolution be formalized as called for by section 73-13-5 of the New Mexico statutes, and that the secretary of the board immediately certify and file with the state engineer a true copy of the resolution and action of the board. If there are any protestants who disagrees with the action of the board, you may appeal this decision directly to the district court as provided under section 73-13-4 of the New Mexico statutes. The chair will entertain a motion to adjourn the board sitting to hear the applications. I have a motion by Mr. Frank Salpeg to adjourn the transfer hearing.
Second.
A second by Mr. Dwayne Gillis. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The chair, the ayes have it, and we are adjourned as the suspension and transfer board.
Thank you, Mr. President, members of the board.
Thank you, Ms. Donahue. That brings us to the HR and safety update. I don't have someone listed for that,
But I can give it.
thank you.
If you turn to the last, page 71, at the very end of your, okay. About 3 pages, 3 or 4 pages in. The current count of employees as of this date is 69. And I'm just letting you know that's even decreased from now. From now, we've lost 3 more ditch riders than tapped. They were gracious enough to stay until the water season was over, so we thank them that they helped us up in Hatch during this great season we had up there. We're still looking for a central equipment operator, a director of engineering. We have now only 1 mechanic, so we're looking for mechanics from diesel heavy equipment to fleet mechanics. We still have on hold, but need to start considering it as we go into our construction season. We need equipment operators, 2 in the central and 2 in the north. We're still looking to hire a project engineer. I've done some interviewing, so I will be able to report to you on that soon, I hope. A welder would be helpful in our fabrication shop. We're down 3 R2U techs, but we're managing what we have, and I appreciate Patrick Lopez and his SCADA team. They're picking up the slack. And overall, we're down 5 ditch riders, and we're ending a season, but we need to really begin thinking about how we begin hiring now for having ditch riders ready for next year. And that's something that maybe our budget committee can work with our staff and develop a game plan. I'm already working with staff to format a new idea that's actually came from the employees, and that I think needs to be looked at further. So we'll discuss that down the road. We have hired an equipment operator here in the central area. We have still some student interns working for us in water records and finance. And we hired a temporary person in the general office clerk, helping in the finance department. She's up in the front in the tax and water record office right now. As you can look at years of service, we've got some ditch riders who are at the age of retirement, so we've got to reconsider, how we our succession plan on how we bring people up to learn this the system of irrigation that we have in place. And we have a upcoming retirement of Jesus Chewy Felix that I hope you can recognize when we get the next special board meeting. He's been with us 35 years. He's trained a lot of our ditch riders through this summer. And we also have an upcoming retirement of Ray Reddy. He's been with us 26 years, and he's a maintenance utility man down in the South district. So with that said, I just want to bring the board's attention that we definitely need to start looking at how we bring in new employees and how we might be able to keep them and utilize them where they're needed. With that, that's my review.
Thank you, Mr. Esslinger. I appreciate noting that our grateful contributions to those that are retiring, and would hope that we would have something for them and invite them to our invite Chewy to our September meeting. That brings us to Albuquerque Journal article, new report criticizing agricultural water use. Mr. Eslinger.
Again, I put this in there, it's nothing to anyone who's read the press, especially as it's covered in California, but that whatever happens, California seems to be moving to the east. And certainly Arizona is under attack for alfalfa. And now it looks like the news is spreading in New Mexico. And as you can read in this article, if you haven't read it, it's pretty alarming to find these people have shaped their opinion for the expansion of why we need pecans, dairy, alfalfa, and so forth. So, Samantha and I were on a meeting this morning before the board meeting that talked about how we market and we bring the awareness to people public to into the classroom, even to educate people on the value of agriculture and the industry that it has and has as far as an economic impact to New Mexico and as well as across the United States. And it's just disheartening that you have people like this blatantly put out kind of stuff. And we just need to do a better job of telling folks who we are. You mentioned it this morning, Joe Pop. You know, we are people too.
Yeah.
And certainly we have a reason to be here and our passion is to feed the United States and the world. And here we are with that as some kind of achievement. But I thought you hadn't read this, you need to be aware that it's coming and there's a full blown attack on the farmers and the agricultural industry. So,
Good Stallback.
You know, it says in here, because of not good choice for state future warriors. Well, how about we start eating cottonwood leaves and all that, all those cottonwoods from Albuquerque down with more water used there than all the cotton that we raise in Mexico. And think about it, that's pretty green in that little big valley there, you know. I just saw when I go up there, all them, we could have chopped cottonwood leaves for dinner.
Thank you, Saul. I do try to say, if the world demanded something different, that met our mix of resources, we would grow that. Farmers don't grow things because they're stubborn. They grow because it's demanded of them. I would like to express my appreciation to Ms. Cook, who wrote this article, in seeking out differing viewpoints. And express to my peers the importance of telling our story. They don't always get it right. They don't always cast the best light on us, but reporters like Ms. Cook have a job. Their job is to write a story. They can write it with or without your opinion. So I encourage you to get it where you can.
I would add, this was front page of the journal, in fact.
Wow. Thank you. Any other questions or comments regarding this particular article or any other? Mr. Hernandez.
Yes, Mr. President, there was a recent article in the Washington Post about a farm in Arizona that I think 6,000 acres growing alfalfa. And it's on a piece of state trust land. So the revenue that the state receives for the pumping of all that groundwater is apparently very minimal. The farm is owned by a Saudi corporation, so the entire product is shipped to Saudi Arabia. Nothing stays in the United States. And there's quite a lot of controversy over it. A lot of people are demanding that state police be canceled in terms of the water being pumped out of the ground. I actually was talking to Tom Davis about it. And he said, well, the problem, Steve, is that farm was there in American ownership before it got sold to the Saudis. And then what are you going to do with all of the other farmers that also have state trust lands and get that same rate that they have to pay the state for the use of the groundwater? We're kind of stuck. He said, because you're not going to be able to cancel that lease because it's the Saudis that own it,
and not have repercussions with the other people that have land. So that's the latest bike narrative on it.
Thank you, Mr. Hernandez. Anything else from the board? That brings us to the end of our open session agenda. I thank you all for attending. I'm going to take a 5-minute recess and then we'll come back and go into closed session. We're at recess.
They changed things and you're allowed to change. So now I have to go through and find you to come and figure out
Yes, ma'am.
whether that is true and file a motion.